everybody. Happy New Year. We are kicking off January really strong. We've got 4 events that are on YouTube in January, I think. And I don't even think that's including Coding with Sam. I think that's just our open office hours. So
Nice.
we're diving in like head first.
Yes.
But
I'm
today
excited
we're
for that.
here. Yeah, today we're here to talk about not the PMPro roadmap for 2025, which is interesting because I don't think we've ever done an open office hours like this of giving out like a little bit of information of what we're at least thinking about planning, and how we actually go about our development process.
Why is that, Jason?
Why is that? Well, I was about to say we hate roadmaps. I hate roadmaps. I'm allergic to anything that's like a list of obligations, because in practice, a lot of times you just get a giant list and you don't get to them. And especially if those lists are public and called the roadmap, people get very upset. Mostly they change, but I don't want to share a little bit on this call. I want to share every single thing, everything in my mind, everything that we could possibly do. Like, let it all out. Let people see like the reality of, how we think and the, the broadness of all the things that we potentially could do. And then, maybe check in 3 months and be like, all right, I know I might have still been hungover from New Year's Eve on that January video, but that's not actually, when we actually sat down to work on things in the middle of the year, here's, where we're at with things and what's more likely to really
And I'll add on the flip side, I love long lists. I love obligation and responsibility to a list. So it could also be a reaction of Jason's to mine to say, like, if I put this in front of Kim, it will create an amount of stress and an inflexibility to be more flexible to things that are changing. So that could possibly be part of it.
It's definitely a thing where it's like, hey, what do you think we could possibly do this? Maybe possibly sometime in the future. It's like, all right, I canceled the plans for the evening. We're coding it right now. And they're like, no. I meant like, so yeah.
But that's Kim and I's type A personality.
Yes. The idea of putting it all out there is, we've kind of always done that with business. We advise you as membership site owners to ask questions in public and share what you're working on. A lot of people are very, protective, and they want to keep a fence up. They want to ask for an NDA to even kind of discuss a high level concept for something they haven't even begun yet. But to us, it's like, assume someone else is working on what you're doing at pace with you, at a faster pace than you, and you just execute better. Deliver what you've promised, or be ready to listen and change to what's happening in the environment so that your product comes out on top. So I think that's part of the spirit of what we've always done these last, this is our 14th year in this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And or 13th, I don't know.
Yeah.
Too many years.
14.
So while there was no public roadmap to speak of, definitely we've been open. If people had asked us, here's what I think, here's what I'm thinking about this. And we're very open for those reasons Kim put out. And so, I'm ready to be open here.
Yeah.
Do we want to share like a reminder on our core values and the mission as a business? We're a mission-driven company, and I think that is how we really make our decisions about what we do, and everything comes back to those. So as a refresher, when I'm introduced to folks and it's like, Jason, what do you do? I say, I help people get paid online. And
listen to that. I help people get paid online. It's not I build a WordPress membership plugin, or I have a software team that makes plugins. It's I help people get paid online.
Yeah.
So if that's what you're trying to do, you're aligning with our mission.
Yeah.
2 thumbs up.
And kind of specifically, it's like which people and how much they're getting paid. And I think our sweet spot, where our focus is compared to other products in the space and other companies, is like, we call them like the little guy, the DIY, but the smaller sites. I think some of our competitors are very happy because it's good business sense to find $1 billion company and get 1% of their transaction volume. And you're like, boom, now I make more money than any membership plugin on the market. I have 1 customer, and that's who I'm going to build for. We're trying to build good software that everyone can use. And so, our client, we're going to listen to those smaller folks. I'm like a living wage. So if an individual is creating a site for themselves, the metric for us is they're successful if they're making a living wage in their country or where they're at. That's like a complicated number with a worldwide product. But we also have like mission-driven associations that make money, and we love that they make more money and they're able to spend more money, like, promoting their cause. And we're focused on those guys too. So definitely, like, from a technical perspective, stuff scales to big, and we like to have like giant logos on our homepage and show off. But we're going to focus on this, the smaller sites, because it's, I think, it's also a good way to make software. It's like we make software for the base people, and, that gets the most people involved. Yep. So And yeah, this is all like, we're tracking users on our site. We're going to be inserting tracking at some point into the tool to better track when they quote unquote reach that like living wage metric, and have that as an opt-in value in the telemetry. We're tracking that instead of like active installs on WordPress.org or GitHub stars or whatever built with things we have for install base in the top whatever sites. We're and you know, that's like a big theme for the end of last year and this year is like, hey, like interact with our website, come into our community, you know, sign up for our free and paid offerings. And those are the customers and users that we're going to be listening to.
And like, we'll go through the rest of this now. It's going to go into like the actual things on the roadmap. But I think we use that mission as a litmus test. When we come up with concepts or ideas, we say, does that serve the person trying to get paid online to make a living wage so that they can leave the day job, so that this doesn't become nights and weekends projects. This becomes something bigger than that, something actually that leaves a legacy for their family, or just a project that they are passionate about and enjoy and creates freedom in their life. So we try to remember to look back to that when we look at work that we're doing or projects that come up or ideas that get pitched in our team. We say, like, is that actually attending to that mission? Is that going to help this solve this problem? So yeah.
And definitely folks can ask questions if they're, hey, are you working on this? The folks who are watching live in particular, you know, let us know, or if you want some details on the juicy stuff that we share, you know, we'll stop and pay attention to that. We got the roadmap that we went to talk about Shape Up a little bit.
Yeah, and we can, Sam, if you want to put a link to that Shape Up article we have on the Stranger Studios site, I'll kind of just share how internally planning goes in Paid Memberships Pro. So we divide the year into quarters, like most businesses. We kind of kick off each quarter with a meeting to say, like, what are some of the things we're thinking about working on this quarter, high level. And then we kind of thumbs up, thumbs down as a management team to say, okay, like, we like the idea of pursuing this. Let's dig deeper into it as still an idea, still like a pitch of work. And that article Sam will share will have a deeper explanation of this. So the ideas turn into pitches. They become kind of a complete section of work that's a full slice of cake. It's, you know, top to bottom, can be launched eventually. And then we have a betting table, and that's where we take all of the pitches that are written by our team, review them, decide if the work is well shaped, if it sounds like it fits in this time frame that's been allotted to it, if we have the people on the team to accomplish it. And the things that successfully pass that become projects that slate into a 6 or 7 week cycle of work. So it really isn't any further than 3 months at a time that we're dedicating our focus and our eyeballs to what projects are being actively developed for Paid Memberships Pro. We're going to talk longer term next in this, but it really is a tight time frame of when we're turning work around. And since we've done this, we've been more effective at delivering things. We've been more effective at not leaving like impartially completed things that we didn't have enough discovery about to decide if it was going to work or not. But we've also done some cool experimental things, I think, that didn't get launched, but just gave us information.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to speak to it more.
No, you got it.
That's Shape Up.
That's good. Yeah.
But Sam shared the link, and it really deep dives into how we think about it. And there's a recording there as well with both of us.
The ideas list is very similar to the stuff we're about, the list on this, our outline here that we're about to go through. And like Kim said, some stuff gets launched and some stuff doesn't. And, you know, the stuff that does, that's like a feature of the Shape Up process, is that we get to find out, oh, I thought this would take 4 weeks, but actually it's going to take 4 years. And I'm glad that wasn't on a public roadmap, because we're just going to scrap it and hope, you know, someone else solves that problem. Cool.
All right.
The
real talk.
Roadmaps. I don't have a
timestamp 9 minutes and 17 seconds, Sam.
Just whoever's.
I'm going to write that down because I have to do chapters later.
So this one has already begun, but it's member directories and individual member profile pages. They can be public, they can be private. We do have a solution right now for this, and we have work in progress to create better appearance for things, tighter code that we're going to be able to iterate on later. So while there's like huge grand ideas for it, right now it got a facelift on the appearance and a facelift under the hood.
Yeah.
Directories to us are not listings sites. So some people ask us for like a classifieds ads listings or real estate listings, all kinds of listings. But we're never going to tackle that. I mean, never say never, but we really do not plan to, because it's not member focused. It's a member's listing of things, and other plugins do that.
Yeah, and there are some people maybe call these sites membership sites, but the membership sites we're going to focus on, each individual member is a real human being with a WordPress user account on that site. So if you know, we have kind of like corporate access, you know, the group accounts extension, and that requires that it's not a shared account. It's like every person who's logging in has a separate account. And so that same philosophy into the directory space, that if your directory is a directory of human beings that can have user accounts, cool, use our software. If it's a directory of things like listings or businesses or other things, you need like some other solution, or you can still do that with PMPro. You're going to have to get into the custom coding section of things. And I think, so the directories and profiles is one of those things we want to make even better this year.
Yes.
And we're like that line where, hey, I'm showing my members on the homepage, but the next obvious thing to do is make it searchable, make it filterable, rearrange the formatting. All that stuff used to be custom template, custom coding territory. We're going to expand the user interface of the tool to take on more of those features so that it's easier to set up a membership site. And so that some of the people who have set up really interesting membership sites can kind of choose to adopt the way we do things in core to make it like a more likely that solution be, you know, robust and stick around and always work with Paid Memberships Pro going forward.
Another feature idea on that one that we've had that I'm excited for, that I hope will come about, is the member themselves being able to choose what user fields show on their profile.
Right.
Yep.
Because
Yeah, right
for
now
me, like, that's privacy concerns right now for me. My guild, even if you're a member logged in, you can see my home address, my email, my phone number, my emergency contacts. So like, there's a lot of things on there that I don't need everybody knowing. So I'm excited about that one.
There is the, like, you can opt out entirely right now in the
Mhm.
plugin we have, but you can't select
Opt out
certain
of granular
fields, like
visibility.
Sam said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked through it a lot, and I know that it's coming. There's kind of, it's wrapped up in how user fields and core Paid Memberships Pro are developing and changing, and how the directory and profiles add-on itself is developing, changing. So they're kind of running parallel right now, and it'll come.
Yep.
You want to talk about the next one, Jason? Do you have any
I can. I
questions?
see some comments.
Oh.
I don't know if we want to
Okay.
interject.
Sure.
Yeah,
I don't
that
think
one
there's
there.
anything super to interject right now, other than Aaron, director, says, please ensure that hooks and filters remain in the directory mix so that code can still be injected as well.
Yeah, we always try our best to do that. And we maybe show deprecation warnings and error logs or something like that when we introduce new hooks, but we'll try to make the old hooks work. And we'll have, and actually Aaron's probably one of them, some existing clients who will beta test these things and say, hey, turn on the new version. Does it break your custom code? Oh, let's like figure out what we, you know, on a staging site, let's now make sure we don't want to break existing custom directories. We want to make it something you can opt into.
And if you want to have that relationship with our dev team, we do have a Slack channel. So if you go to our website, paymembershipspro.com/Slack, we have a channel in that free Slack community is related to development. And that's where we would share, you know, these beta releases of things that we want people to test in a staging, in a playground environment. I use the word playground, not the WordPress playground, but just your own kind of dev silly site that you can replicate some of your production site code on, and then test the new release of something before it's public. We really appreciate when sites do that, because we don't have every scenario set up. So join the Slack community if you have development sites that you would be willing to do that for us.
And just to add on the Slack community, you do at minimum have to have a free Paid Memberships Pro account. So if you're not, sign up for a free account and then you can join that community.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Used to be paid. Now you can get in there for free, but you do have to sign up for an account. That's like, hey, we want you to be interacting with our website and our accounts. So the next group is about gateways. I don't know, we can rattle these off. So there's a PayPal update in the works. Maybe that, I mean, the basic gist of that is like, how does PayPal want us to build an integration that's actually going to be maintained going forward, that has like the PayPal is very different depending on what region you're using it from and things like that. So I think there's like an update for that. And we're deprecating some of the other PayPal flavors. So they still work, but if you're using Payflow, if you're using website standards Pro, an older version of PayPal Pro, like I don't know. The names always change and they reuse the names. It's very confusing, but we send out notices and emails, and you probably see it in your admin. If you're using one of those old versions of PayPal, you need to kind of migrate to PayPal Express, which will migrate hopefully transparently to whatever new integration we put out there.
And that code is in a really good shape. It's pretty far along. PayPal Advanced.
Yeah.
I think that it's called PayPal Advanced. But it'll function very similar to PayPal Express. It will be an offsite checkout similar to the Stripe checkouts offsite payment page. So it's still very secure. Your site is never getting anyone's login information for PayPal or any insecure payment details. You're not accepting credit cards on your site. It's happening and then communicating back to your membership site. So kind of the safest way, and we'll talk more about this later, of the landscape of payments internationally and where we are seeing payments internationally going. That offsite checkout with the hand back to your site seems to be the way that the world wants payments to work across the board for security reasons. So we'll circle back, but there is a PayPal update coming. We also are developing a Square payment gateway. Square, maybe you've seen it in person payments. You'll often see like Square, like tap to pay or, insert your chip card. They also have an online payment API. So it'll be functions similar to Stripe as well, offsite checkout experience. We have some ideas that it can work for more high risk sites.
Yeah.
Certain site types don't get accepted into Stripe's payment gateways program because they're considered high risk.
Yeah, and this is actually folks who've used Square can get back to us as like feedback. Is this marketing on Square's behalf, or is it true Square supposedly has their own risk assessment profile for folks? And that's why, I mean, I don't know, I always use this case of like, there's like the ex-con barbershop like sets up a barbershop with Square and like they have no previous credit history. They literally were in prison. I don't mean to like typecast folks who work barbershops, but this is something I've seen in the town here. And it's like they're able to set up and collect credit card payments because, Square has their own risk assessment profile that doesn't just kick them out because of, some
credit history
factor about their business. Now, does that mean that folks who are in like adult industries or working on crypto stuff or working on other kind of like high risk, high fraud areas can also use Square? I mean, for some, I guess some of them can and some of them can't, but I think this might fill that niche of people who need, a gateway that it doesn't work on Stripe. It doesn't work on PayPal.
Stripe, I know, I've seen an uptick with Stripe connected accounts getting denied because they have a gambling aspect. And that even applies to like, what's it called? You do it. Fantasy football. That's football. What it is. Yeah. So, you don't realize that that's gambling, but like fantasy football tips, I think sites are getting denied, or what there's for all sports has this, the draft and I don't know, anything, I don't know. I'm not a sports person. But yeah, you
Shout
might
out to Rasball.com. Thanks.
So yeah, you just, Stripe might get more selective as they grow just to keep their risk down and optimize for their own financial, reasons. I don't know. Yeah.
Aaron has a question real quick on the Stripe and stuff. So Aaron said, we had some occasional clients who've been rejected by Stripe and accepted by Square. Would the Square integration contemplate card present transactions?
I don't think that would be a priority for us, but there's another update we're talking about later. We call it multi-step checkout, which we're kind of on the coding side, breaking out all the individual components of the checkout process, creating the account, getting extra fields, figuring out which payment gateway to use, and then actually making the payment. And so like a feature related to that is like, if I'm in the back end dashboard of the WordPress site and I'm looking at an order and I have the person's credit card in front of me, why can't I just type in the credit card and kind of process the transaction from the back end of the website? So that would be kind of like a stepping stone. So it's kind of like so it's jumping ahead. We're working on that multi-step checkout refactor, so that all the portions of checkout are separate and we can be more flexible about how they work. Then we can potentially have checkouts in the admin, and I think we potentially could like integrate somehow to
like a terminal based station with a checkout experience. If you were at a museum and they wanted someone to join the local art museum membership, how could that work at an in-person thing? What's cool about Square is it's your charge and your card is kind of attached to your email already. So if you buy something with in person at a Square terminal, it knows your email address and it sends you a receipt. You don't even have to type it in because it kind of acts almost PayPal-like. So I could see how that would work for Square, but maybe not in 2025.
That's good. Yeah, in general, like Stripe has that issue too. Like they have their own kind of terminal things, and if you buy the product on Stripe, it doesn't know to like update to PMPro. So we got to figure that out. I know WooCommerce is also tackling that in certain ways. So that probably won't be this year, but maybe the following year, because we're kind of setting the technology to be more flexible with how we manage orders and things.
We did just launch an abandoned cart add-on. So this is payments related, payment gateway related. There are lots of third-party solutions for abandoned carts. Stripe has some abandoned cart built-in things, but they don't function currently with Paid Memberships Pro because there's this like marketing opt-in requirement to have Stripe doing it. But I've found managing our own cart abandonment process that a native solution is always the tightest. That works. So our lead developer, David, coded an abandoned cart add-on that it's working really great for us. We're getting over 10% cart recovery, which I think industry is like between 5 and 10% is great. 5% would have been great. I would have been really happy with it, but that is already launched on our site. Any early feedback you have about it is welcome. It sends 3 emails after the token order is created. You can choose which levels begin an abandoned cart sequence. So not every level will automatically enable it as you turn it on. You'll have to opt the levels in. And so it sends an email. Is it 12 hours, 3 days, and a week or something?
Like
it's on the documentation. My brain left it. But it has 3 processes. It updates your terms of service with a message related to this type of marketing communication. I think there is some international compliance issues with abandoned carts and that you're communicating the fact that this is happening. But the only reason this is available to us now in Paid Memberships Pro is because we always create that user. So the user is created. We know what they were trying to do on the site, and we know how to remind them later gently to keep doing it, to complete that checkout and get that membership. So the emails include an opt-out link. So if people wish to exit the sequence, they can do that at any time. So it's privacy focused while also hopefully driving revenue for you and your sites, helping you get paid.
Awesome.
So we do have some questions
of this about the things we launched last year. So
that would have been good. Maybe we'll do that too. Sam,
we'll do it out of order.
Coming in January.
Maybe we'll do a 5th event in January and do what we did in 2024. That'd be fun.
This is supposed to be forward thinking, so
it's hard to celebrate the wins when you move to the next thing.
Thinking about some related things.
Yes. Okay, so a couple questions before we keep going, because I think that kind of wrapped up the gateway notes that I'm seeing here. So before we move on to the next topic, for Sensible Senseco's question about adding more into Core PMPro, just wait, we have a whole other list of things coming, so that we will hit that in a little bit. I haven't processed this question. The last time I updated PMPro to 3.3.2 with the PMPro Update Manager active, I got an error message, but it seemed to work. Any word about when the next PMPro update is coming? Very soon.
Yeah, we'd be interested if you still
I don't think
have
it's this week, but
we'd be interested to see like the specific error message that you got. That is always like the key piece of information, and send that through our contact form or in the Slack community. And we tried as much as possible to make that update, that added the update manager go smoothly as possible, but it's possible that some combination of, versions got caught on something. So if you're not seeing an error anymore, you're probably okay. It probably was a glitch in the update, but we still would like to know about that. And then, when does the next update come out? We were just talking about.
I was not on that call.
We didn't plan.
We didn't. Maybe Monday, next Monday. Yeah.
Maybe there's just a few PRs that need to be reviewed, and so it's very close. So if not this week, probably next week is going to be the next update.
And then we're also.
And I might have just shot myself in the foot by saying that, but
So I think a point release coming, later this week, maybe next Monday. And also we're working on 3.4, or do we call it 4.0 for the marketing cloud? I don't know, the next kind of big minor release should be coming. We're figuring that out. We're working on it. There's some stuff already there. And then probably next week we'll know, do we want to hold up for some of these other things that are close, or do we want to push it out?
Yeah, it's close.
Our dog just walked in, so if you hear panting, it's not me.
Men is asking, are there any plans to implement embedded Stripe payment element and or express checkout element support?
So I don't know is what the express checkout element is referring to. But I could talk a little bit in general about how we're thinking about Stripe. Last year we went to the Stripe Sessions conference, and I drank all the Kool-Aid. They did the giant presentation, and they're talking about everything Stripe is doing. Specifically, how complicated the payment, landscape is. There's Stripe is wrapping other payment gateways, and people use Stripe to do, different payment methods that are country specific that we know nothing about, and Stripe just kind of like acts as a layer on top of it. And then on the Stripe checkout page, they already know who you are. They just send you a text message. They know like which fields to show based on what country you're in. They know like optimally how to place, does the country go above or below for these types of people in this language coming from this area, checking out in this currency. So they figure, and also like I use India as an example. They pass laws that are very subtle and technical and detailed, but effectively like outlaw subscriptions in a sense. And it's like Stripe handles that, right? And so we don't have to kind of figure out all the different jurisdictions laws, let alone taxes and all that stuff. So we're like, oh yeah, let Stripe do as much as they can on the payment side. And so generally what that means is like we're embracing the version of Stripe checkout when you go to the Stripe page and you check out there. And then you come back. So there is then Stripe Elements is the on-site version that we use now. And there are ways to improve that to have more of the features you get from Stripe checkout. And it's funny, I talked to the developers and some of them are like, no, this is actually easy. And that's kind of how we think about it. Some of those are like, oh, it's like one day of work. You add an extra line, you put a little bit of thing, and the checkout page now supports this, feature of Stripe Elements. We might ship some of those, but some of them, they sound easy, but they're not. So it's kind of like, oh, it's, this feature of Stripe Elements requires 3 weeks of development time to figure out how to change our checkout page to get to support. We're going to say, actually, just use Stripe checkout. We want you to use Stripe checkout anyway. So we're kind of leaning towards like, say, hey, just use Stripe checkout. And I think anyway, bundled up in that is this idea that, oh man, I can make my checkout page look really cool. And I know my customer, and I'll make it as streamlined as possible. And we used to think that way too. Like the core feature of PMPro when we launched was like, it's one page checkout. It's only one gateway, one checkout. You don't, it automatically logs you in as soon as you pay. I think like the internet is fast enough. People are confident enough. They want the options of how they pay, and Stripe is handling a bunch of this stuff that, they're kind of comfortable going to Stripe, paying and coming back. Anyway, if there's specific things that you like, man, it'd be really nice to do this, you can reach out in the community Slack and we can say, is that like an easy thing? We check a box and turn it on, or is that something that takes a lot of development? If it's the latter, it's probably not going to be on a roadmap. Yeah.
And then one last thing, I don't know if there's anything to make note of, but Min said they found that the offsite Stripe checkout flow takes away control over the wording shown to the users.
Yeah.
Free trial line item shown for front-loaded subscription despite user paying for it.
Yeah, that is kind of an issue. Like Stripe figures out how to say what they're paying for, which may or may not be in alignment with how you pay. Like what we recommend is we do the best, like the multi-step checkout helps because there'll be like a review step where you say, this is how you're paying. And then they go to Stripe and they pay, and it might say something slightly different. And then they come back to your site and it says what actually got paid. So sometimes there's a little bit of a disconnect. There's like a weird specific technical issue of why we introduce trials into how we do the code. I think after we finish the multi-step checkout, we can kind of make that an option so that when you check out with Stripe, it's just, I'm saying this now, David will be like, no, we can't do that. But it's split into a payment and a subscription. And that's like a historical reason why we did that with Stripe and all the other gateways. And I think once we have the multi-step checkout working appropriately, we can kind of have people, when they sign up for a subscription of a certain type, the trial language would make more sense. We have that on here. It's kind of like handling trials. Trials is really weird because it's, what is a trial? What does it mean? Like if a trial ends early, or you pay again from within a trial, you go from one trial to another trial, or like, that, yeah, so it's getting technical. So I mean, continue to use Stripe Elements. We want it to keep working. It's going to be a feature, but it's kind of like, if you're like, I want to use this other thing the Stripe checkout has, but it makes the wording different, you might have to get into workaround territory.
Hi, dog.
Get it. Cool. Are we
good? We're
more questions?
We're good. No, we're good. Go into our next topic.
Cool. This is more planned and in development work, but it's page builder integration. Trying to make all the page builders, as much as possible, have similar functionality. They each have their own way that we can integrate with them. So it's not going to be one for one. How the Elementor integration works is how the Divi integration will work. But it's on our minds to give people those tools because we know that you are using page builders. Most of you are not using the native WordPress page builder Gutenberg or the block editor. You're using another popular page builder. by and large. And a new popular one that's coming up is Bricks Builder. A lot of people are asking for. So it's on our minds to work with Bricks Builder, and then to also improve our Divi integration to also work with the new Divi 5 version. So I don't think we're currently compatible with Divi 5. It's changed everything and doesn't have backwards compatibility with previous Divi versions. So on our mind to patch that and have a solution for people that choose to upgrade to Divi 5.
Cool. Builders.
Page builders. Any other million page builders out there that you're using? They're not on our minds. Sam has docs for the page builders we currently integrate with, and they are the most popular ones that we're seeing people using. So hopefully we have you covered.
Yeah, and the builders, like the way we think about them, is definitely like 3 stages. Like make sure it doesn't break. So that's a bit like we want that for all builders, no matter what builder you're using. Like sometimes they change the core way WordPress interacts with content. So it's like we have to do something to make sure it doesn't break. Then it's kind of like the basic functionality. And then it's like, okay, let's do what someone who's natively using Divi expects, like a membership plugin to do. And it's like a third phase with more functionality.
But it's not without challenges. I mean, page builders themselves are seeing how lucrative the membership site market is becoming. They're seeing how the goals of your sites can align with theirs, and they're adding their own kind of membership and visibility features. So it is interesting because it's competitive, but also confusing for you, as Divi might add their own membership section and give you controls over things based on user role or login and logout status. We'll still have our own integrations when we need to, or plug into those existing visibility features of your page builder if it's possible. It's not always possible to extend their functionality in the way that we need to. But yeah, interesting.
We should do the ETA question.
Oh, Divi 5? I have no
Do
idea.
we have an ETA on Divi 5?
No. And this is
I don't know.
part of the reason we don't like public roadmaps. Is part of the public roadmap is you try to have like an estimated time of completion. But the way we think about it, it's either something we've thought about and we'd like to do. Sure, it sounds nice, like Divi 5 integration. And there's different levels of priority for that we talk about. And then there's stuff like we're actively working on that. And if we're actively working on it, that doesn't always mean it launches. Sometimes we actively work on it and we realize it's either harder than we thought, or it just doesn't make sense anymore, or there's a better solution, blah, blah, blah. But Divi 5, we're not actively working on it right now. And we're actually in between phases of figuring out what we're actively working on. But I guess I'm going into this because it's like, if you're going to interact with our team in the future, it's kind of the language that we use. So it's like, that's a good idea. We're thinking about it. That's all the stuff we're sharing here. Once we're actively working on it, it's kind of coming potentially within a quarter or so. And then
I think Bricks Builder, they're actively working on.
Yeah, I think Bricks Builder is being actively
I will say that is
on.
actively being worked on. It still doesn't mean that it will be released. It might not be in 3.4 or 4.0 or what we deem this next minor.
We're also actively working on Bricks Builder documentation for not the integration, but for like the workarounds that we have right now if you're using Bricks Builder. So that's in the works until we do have an integration, and then that'll be updated.
And it's interesting, this like roadmap concept. Another reason we don't make them public, I'm trapped on, I guess, is like, it's like when I see those questions, you're like, if you're an agency or you're someone using it, maybe you're, hey, this would be nice in the future to use. A lot of times the majority of the folks who want something, they want it yesterday, last week, last year even. Or I remember someone said like, hey, I wish you would do this. And it was like, oh, it doesn't now, we updated. And they're like, actually, it feel like, because we just I want like a more robust, older, tested version of that. And you're like, oh, okay, never mind. So anyway, like the people tuning into this want to know what's happening in the future. So hopefully they have that understanding. But it's always interesting to me. It's like, if we put it out there, then people can see it and support it and tell us and give us the feedback. And I'm like, most of the people we're giving the feedback, they want it already. They don't want it sometime vaguely in the future, which is all we can ever deliver. Anyway, moving forward.
This has to do with languages and international usage of Paid Memberships Pro. We're not only US based, you're not only English speaking sites, people that are building with Paid Memberships Pro. So we want to build systems for people who can work on translations, because it is open source software, so that translations are shared, so that they can be bundled with core. And the version you're using, if you choose to activate in Finnish or Estonian, has as rich of a translation as possible. So along with that, we are building our own server to allow people to contribute those translations. It leverages the same system you might have used if you've done so with WordPress.org. It's called GlotPress. So there will be a PaidMerchants Pro. It'll actually be a Stranger Studios server, but it's a server where you can create a login, view translations, contribute translation strings. We're also going to plug AI into this because it's actually proven pretty strong as a first attempt at a lot of the strings in our code. So we can have AI do a pass on all missing strings or updated strings and bundle with it a better attempt than just giving you English for the missing strings for your chosen locale. So if you are someone that is a polyglot and would be interested in contributing, we are looking for people to be ambassadors in that program. We don't know how we're going to incentivize it. We will try to incentivize it if we can. You might be translating anyway, so the incentive is just your name's going to be bundled with this awesome open source code that's on 90,000 plus websites. And it's work you might be doing for your own site anyway, so just contribute to the open source project as well. So email us if you are a polyglot and have a locale that you specialize in and would like to contribute and work on those translations. That's not too far off.
Yeah. And
there's several members in the community as well that are excited about helping with translations. So
I think
that's also a good place to meet up and connect with people who are doing that.
Yeah, in the short term, I think we'll be almost like beta testers, letting beta testers come in, but then letting almost anybody come in. And
you go.
Oh, you don't know anybody?
Oh, I'm fine with it. I was going to say what's cool about the hosted server is that it's not limited by the plugins that used to be on WordPress.org. Now every add-on
all of our
will support an interface that's comfortable, not code-based, for people to translate strings, save them, and then all of that will get shipped with each release of an add-on or of core. So really cool.
And what I suspect I'm hoping for is when we launch the AI translations, that this will introduce the software to new groups and locales that didn't have, our software in their language. And then those people will be very upset about the translation and say, you messed it up. It's, it's a bad translation. It's obviously AI. It's terrible. And that'll inspire people to come make it better.
I think that's human nature.
That's our strategy.
We're not intending to ship it incorrectly, but it is, that's getting a draft from someone and then editing a draft far easier than starting from scratch. So if you're faced with, there's 20,000 strings to translate across 50 plugins, they're all in English and you're going to go to Spanish. It's like, wow, that's overwhelming. But one or two strings that you felt were incorrectly translated by AI is far more accomplishable and doable.
It's a part of our core values is that when we, doing useful work, we have this, it's useful. The software is good. Like a 80% translated by AI version of the software is better than a not translated version. So we're going to ship it and it's going to rub some feathers the wrong way. And then, but that's good. It's like, hey, that'll hopefully prompt people to get involved and make everything even better, just like we're doing every day.
Do you know, with this, will we be able to push language packs isolated of core releases, or will they only bundle when add-ons or core push version updates?
I want to say yes. No, we can push the updates independently.
Okay.
I don't know if we have this yet.
You can call a language pack.
Several people have been testing the logic for how WordPress figures out when it should download a new version of the language pack is a little odd and has caching involved and tries to figure out versions in an interesting way. And we'll be trying to phone WordPress.org first before and I almost want like that flow chart. I don't know if we got it. That's always been like this thing is like someone on the team has to know exactly, because that's when we're testing these things. They're like, it doesn't work. And you're like, why isn't it updating? I don't know. So I do know the update process is different. It's also very complicated. And I mean, we have to figure that out so we can educate our users like how to expect to download it. In practice, it should automatically detect it's out of date and get the new update. Because we usually we'll be launching the software and then the language stuff comes later. We don't kind of hold up. That's also that like useful work. It's like push out the bug fixes first and then, rely on the localization teams to fix things, the new strings we added. Cool.
Before we jump into the next topic that you have, Brandon on Facebook is wondering, is PMPro working on WP Consent API integration? They just learned that their cookie solution plugin supports it, and a number of other popular cookie solutions support it as well. So it's being widely adopted.
Yeah, I think this was on our minds at some point. hasn't been talked about recently, but there's updates I think we need to. They're definitely in the space. I noticed, for example, in Google Analytics, when you log in, it makes you kind of confirm that you're getting cookie consent. I'll go on video. Like we've always on our own US based properties have been like, I'm going to opt out of this cookie thing and hope that the browsers figure it out. And that obviously hasn't happened. So, and I do know that, so for example, how we do like policy, privacy policies is potentially like tied up in this. So when we integrated with WordPress core's, features around privacy policies, this was like talked about. So it was in the early days of design. So some of that is shipped and it's kind of ready. A lot of these internal core features, like another one is plugin dependency. Like it's not actually baked enough for us to use. Like we'd rather roll our own kind of dependency features. I think in general, people kind of expect us where sometimes we have to tackle these things on our own. So I don't know. That's a good thing for us to look into and see if there's something we can tap into to make it easier to just tap into a core cookie consent. But the PMPro core and none of the add-ons like do anything with cookie consent directly. It was kind of like you have to figure that out on your own. But it'll be interesting for us to look into it. And we are in this mode of kind of we can't trust third parties to support our customers.
I'm trying to even think
sometimes stuff crosses like this is something we have to do ourselves.
Cookies for much anymore. Limit uses cookies. Our
pop-up maker uses cookies.
Our visits visit views and logins uses cookies. I'm thinking of stuff that we are authors of that use cookies still.
Yeah. I wonder if it gets into like session variables too, because I think there's notices around like, oh my God, using session variables, which is like another weird like technical pet peeve of mine. It's like that's the tool for the job, so we used it, and so I wonder if there's PHP sessions are not cookies, but it might be the same.
We'll throw that on the ideas sheet for tomorrow, Sam.
Yeah. Cool.
All right.
So this is going to be, we can maybe rapid fire because
okay.
We want to get into the fun stuff. Yeah. But this is kind of other core PMPro and maybe add-on, but maybe core things that are not well shaped. A lot of what we talked about so far is like firm. These are like on our minds to tackle. So you first.
Protected files. So we have a couple really good blog posts that tell you how to use some of the code built into Paid Memberships Pro, along with a little bit of setup to protect like people directly accessing the file from accessing unless they're a member. But we've always wanted to make that easier, so it quote unquote automatically happens, or there's a way to say like don't let non-members access this file directly, and then that extra protection happens. And so we figured out a way to do that on like half of server setups. And then we also realized that a lot of the competition that says they do this out of the box, they don't actually do it out of the box. They say we can't actually do it based on your server setup. You got to follow this documentation that's just like our posts. So we're like, people, this is what people are expecting to do anyway. You have to do a little bit of setup on your server. So hopefully like we launched that so that, it can protect the files on your website a little bit more natively, either automatically or kind of within the app, walk you through the server setup that you need to do.
I'll talk about this one. I've talked about it on previous events, but right now our checkout experience is focused on purchasing a membership level. But there's very little difference between what our checkout process can do and what WooCommerce can do in terms of like charging a user and creating an order. So not that we're going to get in the product space ever, but other types of checkouts that are not levels. How can your same membership checkout process checkout for a donation that doesn't really look like a level? It has unique emails and confirmation systems. Buying a gift card, buying a one-time product or download that isn't really a level. Anything else that's just a digital transaction that you don't want to call a level, that isn't really a membership to the site. Maybe the member has a core membership already. They're paying you $10 a month for access to something on your site, and you want to sell an ebook and a link in the confirmation email. How can we make that experience, use your same checkout process, a streamlined account and order flow for the member, but not a membership?
I know we're supposed to be going through these quickly, but I feel like this taps on like a mental shift for us.
Okay.
Is that
you don't have to be quick.
We used to think about WordPress plugins all work together, and like, hey, there's a donations plugin and a membership plugin, and if you need to do events, use the event plugin. And that was really good. It causes you to install a lot of plugins which some people are very sensitive to, but it's like, hey, if that plugin does a good job, you have to have a lot of plugins. I think what's happening though is the market is, we're not cooperating, we're competing. Every company competes with every other company. They're going to break our stuff without doing it. They're upset that we give away for free what they're charging for. The customer is saying, I don't want to install WooCommerce just to do this transaction. And it's like, hey, technically, like, we could do a little bit more work and do it. And so we've mentally shifted. Some things we're going to say, we're never going to do that. Like if you want to do listing sites, you should use another solution that does that kind of thing. But it's like, hey, donations, gift cards, possibly events at some point, these kind of like things that are tangential to the membership business. It's like, we don't want you to have to install another e-commerce plugin to do something that we technically can do. And so if we might get to some of that later in the year.
It's an interesting mindset shift. It sounds like a short sentence to say, but in reality, it was like a grieving period for us as the developers. It took many years for us to come around to the idea that we will have to create our own version of this, that it's not sustainable to integrate with an events plugin that has their own goals and dreams related to membership, has their own in-house product that is a membership product as well. It's kind of like we've all grown up, and now we're like, okay, we compete, and we're going to make a better version for people using Paid Memberships Pro that's better integrated and that we can control and maintain without breaking versions. So we're never going to build a page builder, but if you look at this Divi situation, like, it's a moving target for us. We don't know what Divi's doing in-house. We don't get a version of Divi 5 to test early on. They just put it out in the public and then we scramble. It's like, that's not sustainable for us as a business. So as much as possible, we bring things in-house so that we can control the experience that you're having with the code.
Yeah. A couple other things in the core plugin, or just, in general, actually not in the core plugin. So we're thinking of an advanced emails add-on. So a lot of the different code gists and even some of the add-on type things that are related to emails and customizing emails and adding new email templates and when are emails sent, things like that. We're kind of collecting all those ideas. Send us your email ideas. And
the recipient of the email is a single email. You must use code to change that.
Yeah.
If you want to copy someone on the email, if you want to blind copy someone on the email, if you want a unique confirmation email per level, all kinds of ideas that people have trickled up to us. What does that look like? Does it belong in core? Most people don't need it, but the people that ask for it, it's very important too. So that's on our minds.
That's on our mind. Similar idea around discount codes. So there's a lot of add-ons and custom gists and things around discount codes, and we might collect those into like the advanced discount codes extension that does all of those. Merge avatars in. So this is part of the move. There's a community plugin, basic user avatars, that we were recommending and using, but we've given up control of that and all the plugins that are on .org. And so, we wanted avatar support in WordPress core. That's what we think makes sense, but it's not going to happen. So we're going to, probably merge that into the core plugin. So it's something that we control.
And that aligns with our directory goals as well. I mean, what's a member directory without a way for people to customize their profile image, the picture of their image, maybe a banner, maybe some other gallery type images. So avatars will be that first step. And it does help you as a membership site, even if you don't have a directory, make a personalized experience. Like, people are like, wow, I can put my picture on this, and you can use that. And maybe you even identify with them as a person on your site too. It's member focus. So, and
it's really subtle. Like, all this stuff, like, so easy for us to talk about, all the technical layers, but here's an example. Protected files enables this because it's a security privacy concern for someone to upload an avatar of their picture, and then it's out on the internet. And that's one of the reasons why WordPress core wouldn't want to touch it. And so it's kind of like, hey, now we can kind of do it in a way and protect the image, the uploaded files, stuff like that.
You probably need an approval system and things like that, or some kind of layer inside to make sure that people aren't uploading obscene avatars or, just gestures or things that aren't appropriate. So there's a lot related to that is an easy to say, hard to do well.
I guess limit logins is like the common features. Like, if people fail their login so many times, lock them out because they're probably a spammer type activity.
And and that's also merging the WP Bouncer features in for membership site focus. So people can't share accounts and simultaneously log in. We've probably experienced this if you go to like a vacation somewhere and you try to log into your Xfinity account. It's like, you're not where you're supposed to be by logging into this. That's a more geography based restriction, but ours will say you can't share your login to your sister for your course, and she can also take it. It'll boot you from that login, and maybe eventually we'll have some admin reporting to say like this person's logging in from a lot of different locations. Like they might be sharing their account. They might have been compromised in some way. Maybe take a look.
We have trials on here, so we talked about it a little bit earlier that it's very confusing, and the ideal is to have like a GUI that is the way you think about your trial. It's a free trial with this recurrent payment, or a trial for this long, and then it increases to this. And programmatically, the software and other custom code can be like, is this person in a trial, like a real trial, what I consider a trial, and not what someone else considers a trial? So we've always had thoughts, and now might be the time we move that in. It's related a little bit to the, some of the gateway changes.
And giving you reporting on who's in that trial period, because it is a sensitive period. If they're free for 7 days and then they begin a subscription, even if that subscription's already set up, giving you some reporting to say, when are people exiting? Are they immediately signing up and canceling immediately? Are they canceling on day 6 at 11:59 p.m., waiting to do it? And just giving you some tools so you can understand if the trial's really benefiting your site or harming your site.
And then the action scheduler, which is like a code library that's used in WooCommerce, Lifter LMS, and a bunch of other plugins that kind of schedule stuff to happen later. So I think like when you check out now, if you're integrated with an EMS and a third-party bulletin board system, and there's something else that needs to check in, like sometimes that checkout can take a lot of time because it's like logging the person, updating all these systems. That's an example of something we could say, hey, like schedule that action, then it doesn't slow down the page load, and within some amount of time, those third-party sources are updated, or like exports and CSV exports and reporting and other things that take a lot of time on the website. You can kind of schedule it to happen in the background. And we've done like our own workarounds for a lot of these, and the action scheduler was always the solution, but it's robust enough and kind of standard enough that it's safe to use now for us.
There's a lot that we can plug into with this, like an export, let's say, of all of your orders, a filtered list of your orders. If you're a very robust, very active site, that's a huge file to process. An action scheduler can run in the background and prepare that file for you, send you an email and say it's ready for download. So things like that will help membership sites scale. And I think in a way also let them operate on slightly less expensive hosting, because things aren't happening simultaneously all when everyone's active on the site. It can happen at off hours that you deem are your site's off hours. So we'll see. They don't like when I say operate on lower cost hosting, because there's myriad problems that come with that. But
yeah, and I mean, I see Aaron, directors, saying he's had issues with action scheduler potentially on different hosting situations. It is like one of the reasons we've avoided it is it's hard to make sure it works consistently across different hosting environments. But maybe we get into that, like the problem that people have inconsistent hosting environments when they're hosting Directories Pro.
We can skip
that. What can we do that? I guess quick, let's skip over EMS integrations. Okay. You put it there. You probably have ideas. I feel like we have ideas to have one PMPro emails that incorporates with all of them, but actually not separate emails, or who's going to maintain this and who does it. Yeah. They're all kind of work differently. That's frustrating. Yeah.
So your email marketing platform, if you're on MailChimp, if you're on ActiveCampaign, if you're on Constant Contact, if you're on Kit, they're all a little bit different. So, and their APIs are always changing too. So how do we tackle that? How do we keep our integrations up to date? How do we have kind of parity across all of them with how they function and how they manage your email offsite, but also on site too, for things like Fluent CRM or MailPoet if you're using those tools. Okay, fun stuff.
Yeah. 50
Before you get into the fun stuff.
Okay.
While I still have everybody. Quick marketing advertisement here. Yes. Please like and subscribe to this channel. We're always trying to grow the channel. And then like we've mentioned before, our Slack community, if you're not in there, it just takes a free PMPro account, and then you can go paidmembershipspro.com/Slack to join our Slack community and get peer help. And then one of the benefits of being in that Slack community, in addition to we've got 700 members in there right now, is there are exclusive community events that are starting actually tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So you will want to be in there for some exclusive events. And then our next open office hours, I will actually be presenting, I think like my second open office hours ever, because normally I'm the host. But I'm going to be talking about membership managers the role that we have an add-on for it, and then also how you can, what they can do for you, and how to find the right person for you to hire. So that will be on Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern.
Cool.
Fun.
And back to our regular programming.
Is it true that like when we say like and subscribe, like the icons wiggle on YouTube, or maybe you got to click them and there's a cool animation? I think if you click like and click subscribe, there's a cool animation. I don't try it. See,
I think you
click that subscribe button and see if you get a cool animation.
I think your computer prints $100 bill if you.
Fun stuff. All right, I'll say the title. We're working on what we call the condo site SaaS. And this probably will get launched soon this month. We're actively working on this. Condo sites and HOAs, homeowners associations, other like lakefront associations, property associations, park associations, that kind of like, there's a membership around a certain area. This is like a class of user that was a little bit at risk for us because we felt, hey, our goal is to help people make money. And part of it is like, hey, we can help, all these membership sites are trying to grow, right? Obviously they want more members. There's a type of membership site that's like, we want as many members as possible. But this like condo association is like, I have 25 units in the condo and I'm not trying to grow. So all your marketing around growing doesn't work. All your tools around growing, abandoned cart, that doesn't make sense. A lot of these condos don't want the payment features. And we're like, hey, let's really focus on the types of membership sites that have payment involved. And so we're going to, de-emphasize this customer as we build features, but then we realized that this is a potential, self-contained business. There's a flow of, condos that it's a new requirements and laws in Florida and elsewhere. Like these condo sites have to have websites. When we look at them, they're being served by really terrible software that's not open source and not as fun and cool as Paid Memberships Pro and WordPress. And so we're building a solution for them. They'll be like and it's also a good testing grounds for some of this like SaaS activity that we want to do. How can we host things on our own?
That speaks to what Aaron posted here. Beyond getting into that market, which I think this is that dip toes kind of thing, getting into the market of a hosted site for a niche and some other niches that we have in mind for that. So yeah, we can talk about other specific hosts and what to avoid, like avoid WordPress.com, avoid .com. We can talk more fun stuff before I get into mean stuff.
Oh yeah, we have like a trash talking section. Stay tuned for the trash talking section after the fun stuff section.
Coming up.
Yeah, so the kind of site would be fun. It'll be an experiment as to launch a SaaS, have it on its own hosting, and there definitely is a place for people using the full-on Paid Memberships Pro and all the functionality on your own host for your site, because you guys, the people who are already running those sites, they have a lot of control and like it. But this will reach a customer that wants like to get up and started really quickly. But then it's still, open source technology underneath. So if it grows and they're like, I have to move and host on my own, they can do that.
It's portable.
All right, last thing on. Yep. So
everybody wants to stay for the trash talking.
Okay, stay for trash.
Okay.
All right. Another SaaS we're thinking about is video hosting. So this is like if you have a course and there's videos related to your course, you have to host it on Amazon and use like a third-party video player that does it, or you have to use Vimeo
or Wistia, which are extremely expensive, and I think they have a lot of platform tools that no one's leveraging. So you're not leveraging their browse systems, their likes and tags, and all you're doing is embedding it on your site and hoping that it's a secure bridge and inaccessible based on the protections in your site. So we can beat the costs of Vimeo and Wistia. We can reduce the complexity of hosting on like an Amazon SES and give really like performant video hosting for people who have very video focused membership site content.
Yeah.
It'll complement your Paid Memberships Pro site. So it won't be a hosted course site. It will be where the videos live and have integration to embed within Paid Memberships Pro, within your posts and pages and courses in WordPress.
Yeah. So ideally, you're in the WordPress dashboard, you upload a video through the dashboard. You don't even know it's on our own servers. And then also it's automatically protected for members, how you would think it would. And we try to do that for all the varied video solutions, but this is one of those markets. It's kind of like the email marketing system. There's a lot of these SaaS services that you have and other plugins for WordPress where like just the market is so diverse. And then also in a sense, like exploitive, like I don't know, like they're free to charge as much as they want, but then like some people want to pay a lot for Wistia because they really like the tools, and some people just want to bear. So we have to choose like which one do we? It's like it's a moving target. We're like, let's integrate with this video hosting service. And they're like, well, now we have a deal with this membership thing. So we don't we'll make it hard for you to integrate. Or like now we have this new feature. We just raised our pricing. And it's like, I picked you because your pricing was good. So it's like, we're like, all right, I think we can do it. We have the team, we have the money, we'll roll up things and we'll have our own video hosting. And that's the one that will work really well for Paid Memberships Pro. Takes a while to do that. It's like easier said than done, but it's on our minds.
What's easier done than said?
Easier done than said, easier said.
I'd like to use that phrase more in these calls with you all.
That would be good.
That would be nice.
I like that. Let's meditate on that. Easier done than said.
Maybe not
right
now.
Basic members SaaS.
Yes.
So another like version, like, hey, like, I guess a little bit more background. I'm on the, I'm on a roll. Paid Memberships Pro is a platform for membership sites. And I always expect there's some people have built these services and tools on top of them. Some of them watching the call right now. And I always thought there's really interesting businesses that could be built on top of Paid Memberships Pro. And it's not happening like we would want it to. And it's like, oh, we'll do it, So I always thought someone else would do this and we'd have like a partnership and make it work. But the idea there is, can we make a very bare bones version of WordPress, installs Paid Memberships Pro, revamped UI on the front end and back end that all it does is talk about the membership functionality, not the content stuff, no other plugins. It basically is a website like lemon squeezy or so that like you check out here, you become a member. And then I'm a member in a database and the admins have the database and there's a really good API. So I can connect that database to my Minecraft server or to like my Slack server, or I can connect it to my other WordPress site, or I can connect it to my other tool.
Or your other static site or your other, like you have a really performant website and people just go to this membership portal and validate, pay, check out. And that's where your database is stored and everything else happens in a different site that's all talking to it. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if this customer is hard to find. Like, do they really exist? Because if they want this, they roll their own, or they use like a bundle of other tools to do this thing. But it's kind of like a basis for SaaS in general. So it's a really like, hey, let's build it. We'll work out the tooling that we need to host websites, and it'll just do this. And I do think it'll be useful for people who are, they want to add a membership to an existing collection of technology stack. And there's some really cool people who kind of use Paid Memberships Pro and WordPress in that way, and they ignore the stuff. It's like, hey, let's actually just streamline it for you.
Do you think when we build that, the really cool APIs will be part of the SaaS, or will they become part of core Paid Memberships Pro so they can be leveraged by anyone?
Yeah.
But yeah, right.
But kind of both.
It'll strengthen the APIs that already exist in Paid Memberships Pro. So you don't have to be using this basic member SaaS to also have a site that can talk to Paid Memberships Pro in this way as a standalone environment. But I don't know, too technical.
Totally. Yeah. It'll encourage people to use Paid Memberships Pro with like APIs and Zapier and things like that. And it'll force us to make, for folks who are using Paid Memberships Pro now, like the APIs will be more robust. There's like a, wish list on API interactions.
We want to get more into themes. And this is also a freedom we'll talk about leaving WordPress.org and we're going to take MemberLite off of .org. And what does that mean? But thinking about our use cases, it's time for us to have theme options for all of them. We can give you a plugin and we say, go find your own WordPress theme, go find your own WordPress host. But if we can also give you the design that comes ready baked with a lot of the structure that you're going to need, it's just going to speed up that DIY. Maybe you've never built a website before. So why make something so challenging? We're going to give you a conversion optimized, conversion focused theme that is easy to customize and works with the page builder that you choose to use. That will involve me getting more comfortable with page builders like Elementor, but I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to get there. So
so we're taking control of the design. We used to,
that was another one of those, hoping that other people would build for it. And what we're seeing is Cadence is building for LearnDash. They're not building for plugins they don't own. They're building for the plugins that they own. They're not going to build for us. BuddyBoss is now acquired by MemberPress. How long do we expect BuddyBoss to care about Paid Memberships Pro customers? Hopefully for a while, but maybe not eternally. If everyone's going to put their gates up, we're going to have to do the same.
So I say BuddyBoss is like a good example, I think, because they had a tool that was good, but they assumed you would use their theme. A lot of the functionality was almost like held within the theme, or only worked best when it was like, hey, use their theme. I think eventually most new, especially Paid Memberships Pro sites, were like, you might as well use our theme. And also themes are getting more flexible and we can do the work. So you full site editing and things like that. You have patterns for themes. A lot of the design elements around a theme aren't stored in the theme anymore anyway.
Yeah.
So we'd like, when you're using PMSys Pro, for it to be beautiful according to our sensibilities, but still customizable. And you won't be in that spot where like, I like this theme, but they don't support PMSys Pro. And it's like, whose job is it to make it look nice? And a bunch, you know, yeah.
Finger pointing. No more finger pointing.
No more finger pointing. Community tools. Oh, okay. So like Buddy Boss, I'm like, who wrote this one? You know, Buddy Boss, Buddy Press, BB Press. I think a way for people to chat in like a Facebook groups like way on your website, something like Slack or Discord. Those third-party tools will still be important. I think people are moving towards wanting like the risk of spam and bots and AI. Like you don't want to talk on Twitter or Facebook to like open social media. And actually Facebook, there's like a headline today. They're like, they're getting rid of their fact checking team. So they're like, whatever, AI, say whatever you want on there. So it's like, if you want to go talk about quote unquote whatever, cool, use those social media tools. But if you want to talk with other people who are also into collecting cool cars or also into this lakefront, you know, area, or also into your topic of interest or whatever this membership site is about, there are tools to do it on WordPress. It's the same story we keep telling, like it's a fragmented thing. You can't really integrate with them. It's not connected. The customer wants us to build one. So we're thinking about it. We'll build one too. Improve the mobile reports. If you haven't checked it out, I think it's maybe a little hidden. We have the mobile reports dashboard as an add-on. And it's a progressive web app. So once you install it, it runs like an app on your phone.
I just clicked.
And it loads. Click.
Oh, hold on. You're going to see our sales.
Yeah.
But it just loads like, where's the phone? Oh, it's here. Like a really nice app.
Yeah. Like so
any app of all my reporting in my site, all the reports in Paid Memberships Pro.
And it's right on your phone. You can check it multiple times a day, get that dopamine hit, figure out what's happening, figure out if you have to follow up with a new sale. Where Metric is an awesome app that works for WooCommerce and Shopify, I think. So we've like used them as a model of like, it'd be nice if our mobile app was feature complete with Metric. If anyone who's involved, I feel like I also am like, hey, if Metric wants to build support for PMPro Pro, that's a deep ask, but it'd be cool. Like I meant to reach out to those folks and talk about that. But that's the idea, is to have like a mobile app that's really good. For reports, and then AI in our internal support and marketing tools. So this is internal tools for us. But like when our support team's talking with you, it's really cool. AI can write a rough draft, and then our team will fix it, make sure it's telling the truth and it's good. And then, you know, it'll kind of, you shouldn't feel like you're talking to a bot. We definitely don't want to just have a bot that you're talking to, but it should speed up our support time. It should make our support agents like able to work with you better. And the same thing on the marketing side, when you're interacting with our website. I mean, this is stuff for us, but like, you know, the AI can kind of sit and watch your activity on the website with privacy concerns and all that stuff, and then like know exactly what to recommend to you. We're constantly trying to guess, like people might need help at this point. Maybe people don't know that there's a mobile dashboard report, but like it's hard to tell. So we're kind of, you know, we broadcast in wide berths and stuff, and it's tough when people are like, they cancel, they're like, I'm canceling because you don't do this. And we're like, we do that, you just didn't find the article. And there's almost like a little AI buddy that we can put alongside some of our stuff that's watching enough on what you're doing to be like, oh, it seems like you could benefit from this thing that we have. Like that's exciting to us, and we'll keep thinking about ways.
And I hope you all in your own customer communications are leveraging ChatGPT or another AI-based tool. I did a lot of our sales inbox over the holiday season while some people were on break, and it really helped me turn my replies that were less than friendly. I guess I'm very friendly, but when you're handling like 60 emails in 2 hours, you're just like, how can I possibly do this? Like, I want to be able to write like, no, they can't do that. How are they even thinking that would work? That's so dumb. And then AI is going to make something really nice out of it. You know, it's like, hey, that was a really great idea. But, you know, I'm just like, whoa. It sounded really kind, and it was accurate because I fed it what my reply would have been in Kim's like, I'm working too fast tone, and got a good result. So I think if you want to also follow along with this trend with us, it's definitely worthwhile to give it a shot for your own sanity. Helps you reply to someone that you might not be as kind to in a kind tone.
Sweet. All right. Other thoughts, aka trash talk.
Or trash talk. I feel like I need a bell to like, you know, round one, ding in the boxing ring.
You know what looks like a bell? The subscribe button looks like a bell.
Jason.
Subscribe if you want. Subscribe to more future trash talking. We don't do this. It's not an image.
We do this a lot in our kitchen, and then we put on a happy face and come to work. But anyway, one of the biggest changes that came for us last year was our decision to pull all of our code off of the WordPress.org plugin repository. And if you need to know if our company is healthy, it's healthier than ever. Like we've had no impact on sales that I can notice.
Positive impact.
Positive impact. Thank you. I don't know.
I mean, there's a message I've been sitting on, and we're a very unique company in this space, so I don't want to say too much, but if you're concerned, or if you are a figurehead of a community that's delusional about how important a certain, channel of sales is for the WordPress community, it's not. Like our sales and our traffic all went up when we removed the plugin from .org. We're in a unique position where we already have a bunch of content on the website. We have a name and a brand that's out there. Most of the people interacting with PMPro know to search for it. It's not just because it's the top result in a search query. And I think our customer is looking. We used to say this all the time when we do content. It's like, we're not like tricking them into using it, where they're not going to use it really quickly, or like kind of partnerships with other people. Like, I'll tell them to use PMPro, and like, they're not going to use it just because you tell them to. It's like, we have really smart users building a very important piece of functionality on their website, and they're going to slow down and research it a bit. And we're, that's our marketing and sales strategy is get involved in that research task.
Yes.
And our best customers, and for sure, are the ones that go through that. And they're still going through that. And now we're getting traffic from people who are searching. They're coming directly to our website, where we can handle them with care instead of through a competing company's website where they get, poop.
Yeah. I think with the .org repository, it felt like we were one of many membership products, and they all kind of tried to name them like ours. And it was just like this race to the bottom. Like, I think people literally thought any of those three on the top were fine. But the more research that you do to choose the plugins you put on your WordPress site, the better off you'll be, because the last thing you want to do is get very embedded in an ecosystem like Paid Memberships Pro and then realize it isn't the right fit, or get embedded in, WooCommerce subscriptions and realize that it's not sustainable for you and your business at all, which leads me in, well, we won't lead into that yet. We'll hold that one. But anyway, what does it mean now that we're not hosted on WordPress.org? One of the things that limited what we could do through the plugin guidelines was certain telemetry features. So understanding what you were doing in your WordPress site anonymously and securely. There's a great Twitter thread about what WooCommerce is actually tracking in your site, whether you know it or not, and whether you've realized that you've opted into it or not. So I'll try to find that thread, but someone really dug into what WooCommerce is doing. And it's like shocking as a plugin on WordPress.org, the kind of, I don't know, black hat things that they're getting away with, I will say.
I see that from both ends. Like the user perspective, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're doing that. And as the product owner's perspective, sometimes I talk.
Oh my gosh, can we do that?
Well, I talk to these SaaS solutions and they're like, why aren't you doing that?
Yeah.
And you're like, obviously everyone does that. And it's a very powerful tool. Like if we say we want more people using this feature of the software to be able to just push out code that says how many people are using that feature, are they actually finding it, how many people are clicking that button and getting that feedback like from the app instead of kind of like an arduous process. Although it's good to talk to customers too, to really understand, but we can get like this, they call it telemetry, this data, this targeted, what are they doing? But I do think there's aspects of it, like we want it to be clear to folks running that this is the data that we're gathering and how it's working and how we're using it and how we're not selling it to third parties and stuff like that. And then like, what do we need? And kind of, separate do we have to see, your last 10 orders or something like that and all the details and things like that. We don't, we want to be clear about what we send. But anyway, so.
Another limitation was that the MemberLite theme required you to use the helper plugins, MemberLite elements and MemberLite shortcodes. And that was also a limitation of .org and what they allow themes to include. But there's a lot of times that a theme will add a little bit of functionality to extend, let's say, Paid Memberships Pro or themed features, and you don't want to install a separate plugin to do so. So these feature themes that will come out with MemberLite's next evolution will have some functionality pieces that aren't really page builder like, but maybe they give you like a nice interface to insert icons into things, simple things that wouldn't be allowed as part of the WordPress themes repository that we can now offer. So you don't have to install another plugin, and it just makes that theme more complete in itself. If it's a community or condo site focused theme, are there just a couple plugins they need to be able to show a directory of the units on the site, let's say, and we don't want you to have to put a code gist on the site. We don't want you to install a plugin for it. It's going to be built into that theme. Just simplifying things.
Yeah, put the code where people expected. Someone had a question earlier about, and we talked about merging some things from add-ons into core, and are they plugins or modules or things? That's like a really complicated question, and it's something that it changes all the time, like where the code goes, and we have some flexibility where we're able to put the code where we think it should be. And a lot of times, like if the theme 100% needs this code, it should be in the theme, kind of a thing like that.
I wonder how many add-ons we've merged. Even last year, we probably merged 4 or 5.
Yeah, at least 5 or so. Yeah. So it's
and more coming.
It's kind of like a process.
It is consolidating, but it's the same amount of code. So
yeah, like sometimes
code is code.
I sometimes
what folder it's in is.
I thought about like just hiding plugins and calling them modules, because that's what really triggers people. Because it's kind of like if the code's there's a but we have, I know it's a whole call maybe around how we think about where the code goes. It's a separate plugin is good. It has a separate update path. We can push releases to plugins that we don't have to wait for a release of the core plugin, which is a bigger, complicated thing. People can kind of opt into the plugin. People can opt out of the plugin. Excuse me, if it's an add-on, things like that. So there's definitely space for plugins. We're not, now that we're off .org, everything's going to be one monolithic service. We like the plugin architecture. There's a lot of stuff for it. But we're going to be moving code around. I think it's important maybe to talk about things that aren't changing. So like the WordPress repository, especially recently, the plugins team grew from like 2 people to 20 people almost, or something like that. They review the code that goes in there. There's a new plugin checker plugin that kind of automates a lot of tasks and figures out, checks for security issues and common programming standard issues. And, you're doing this kind of thing that might upset people or might not be working on a bunch of servers. We still run that plugin checker plugin before we release on our own servers. And there are these weird edge cases where it's like we would fight over kind of, like, are you really do that? Or if I'm going to, and the thing is too, is like, we want to do things the way people expect. We want it to work well with everyone else who's writing the code. But a lot of people think that these things are set in stone, but they're not. For example, like the plugin dependency stuff. It's like people are actively talking and kind of sort of figuring out how it's going to work and how it works with like, install screens or notifications, or when you install another plugin, these are all like crazy important questions, like notify them they're installing a plugin and where they're installing it from. Cool. But like if the rules on that change slightly and we think like, I think it's visible enough, like, what I mean? We have our own values for these things. And honestly, our values are more like open. Our values are more transparent. Our values are more like, then, they're really ending up in the rules. So it's like, we really were locked sometimes in the ways of like, we're like, hey, I think we can do this thing. Let's just be honest with the user that's using it and make sure that they're clear about everything that's happening. Because people will want to opt into telemetry for certain things. They'll want to opt into these things or whatever. Or they're in a country where they don't care about cookies or whatever. Anyway.
There was like an idea that being on .org meant that your code was more like bulletproof or security tested. And it's really not the case, at least for our code. At the stage we were at with the repository, we would push an update and it would be immediately visible. It's not actually getting rigorously checked by a human being or even by too many code scanners in between. But we have everything public on GitHub. So all of the sources like PatchStack and WordFence that do security testing will continue to have full access to all of our code that was on WordPress.org's repository is also and has always been on GitHub. So there's no closure to the visibility for security researchers to keep checking the PMPro code base, the platform's code base, and reporting vulnerabilities that they find. Cool. So not changing.
I'm changing. Something we might do this year is fork WordPress. And I think as we get into this, it would be interesting to like get more work in public about it, because a lot of people are thinking about forking WordPress. What does that mean? How would you go about doing it? And what I mean by that is not set up a version of WordPress that is that is open source and everyone can use it, and has like a foundation and its own build path. But the reality is that we are looking into these SaaS solutions. We're also looking out for our customers in some apparent future where like the hosting, only some hosts are allowed to host your paid memberships pro site and other sites aren't for some reason, because the WordPress company is upset with, paid memberships pro or you or your host or some version of your stack. So we're like on the defensive. We've been thinking about these things for a while, that at some point everyone's digging into the like parts of the update, parts of the telemetry for, not just for, we talked about the WooCommerce telemetry, but built into WordPress, it has the ping.org and stuff like that. So if, there's in the future only .org or otherwise.com, like approved plugins are able to run on quote unquote official WordPress managed hosting or something like that. Like, I think there's going to come a time when, and definitely for things on these SaaSes where like, we want to fork sections of the WordPress code. So we're going to run our own like internal PaidMemberships Pro fork of the code. So it's like a slow process. It's kind of reflexive, defensive, but I imagine it's like we're starting that path. And I imagine like a few years from now, there's something called PaidMemberships Pro that's built on top of WordPress, and it's slightly different than WordPress. Like hopefully it, as much as possible, integrates with the plugins you want to use and the tools you want to use and on the host that you want to use. But, we're ready to be able to have like, well, our version of WordPress is all of that, except we added this thing that we think needed to be added. We removed
turned
this
off
thing.
this. Yeah.
Probably
more
more
often, I think it'll be some things getting disabled. So if WordPress, the core code base, stays as pluggable as it currently is, and we see things happening that don't benefit you to be using them, or that would benefit you to have them turned off, those will be the things that get modified by this fork.
Yeah. So it's funny, like, and so we're doing all that technically, and it's not like a big showy thing. We're not trying to promote it, but it's necessary part of the tech stack to keep things working for you. And almost like a minor version that wasn't really a fork because we use plugins. It was like you could update your plugin from our host, and hopefully that went seamless for you. That's like our mindset as our existing users. Like we want to keep it as seamlessly as possible for you. And we feel like, oh, we might have to go in and kind of tweak these things and offer you, hey, did your version of WordPress break for these various reasons that maybe aren't going to happen yet? Okay, here's like the version you can run, and it'll keep running for you the way your website will keep running the way you think it should. When we talk about WooCommerce, we're competing with WooCommerce. So this is like a mindset shift too. I think like we have an integration with WooCommerce. If you're using that, there's a use case for that. We want to, as much as possible, keep things working as long as it should, but you probably should either move to using just WooCommerce stuff or move to using just PaidMemberships Pro stuff. And that's part of like the multi-step checkout and checking out for things that aren't levels will make it easier for you if you want to, hop on the PaidMemberships Pro bandwagon. And if you want to use both, you'll use both, but it'll be in the sense of people, already using, Buddy Boss with another membership plugin, MemberPress, and PaidMemberships Pro at the same time, Lifter and PaidMemberships Pro at the same time, that kind of thing. It's going to be a little tricky, and you might have to add some of the glue.
We saw like a lot of contention with WooCommerce and the recent issues between Matt Mullenweg and WP Engine. It was like they're changing our fee structure, they're taking our fees and things like that. And just like WooCommerce is a platform. I think they try to be a product e-commerce solution. They try to be a subscription platform. They try to be a digital download platform. I think they're just kind of failing at all of these things. As large as they are and as much as they're used, like they don't understand the membership customer. Like they have a library of extensions. Some will work if you're using subscriptions, some won't. It's just kind of like, I don't know, it's not a comprehensive platform for a membership site. So we want people to not choose to use WooCommerce if they can. And if they choose to use WooCommerce, there's a new product by the team at Kestrel Constellations that's membership by the people who wrote WooCommerce memberships. Like check them out if WooCommerce has to be a part of your stack, because I don't know how much longer selling WooCommerce memberships as a product or PMPro memberships as a product is going to be in our sites to maintain. Like they moved into all block-based, and we're seeing some issues with that. They're not interested in other builders. They're really interested in the block editor and integrating with that. So just there's going to kind of become more focused on all their own tools and on their own systems, like we're doing. But if that aligns with you, then I think you need to stay in that platform and in that gate.
Yeah, I think like we have a shipping add-on, and it feels like some inventory component might come out in the future for us. But if that's important, you should probably use WooCommerce for sure. Those are features that are. But what we want people to think is, oh, but if you're using a membership component, if you're restricting content, if you're dealing with human being members, you want to use PaidMemberships Pro over WooCommerce. And sometimes there's a reason to use both. So that's our mindset. And what's interesting, like I think you'll see, and some of it's like it's already there. We do this stuff, and it's just going to be marketing. And now that it's honest, like we don't have to worry about the fact that we're going to piss off the competitor that owns the distribution platform. They don't own our distribution platform anymore. we feel like we can kind of market directly to them. And it's not that's funny. We're having fun in the trash talking section of the call. It's not our nature to like be really aggressive and like annoying and assholes about this, but you will see like a post we turn up a little more aggression of like, and a little more blunt and direct, like you shouldn't be using WooCommerce for these things. You should be using PayMerchants Pro. We're going to take better care of you. It's going to be a better solution for you. It's going to be more performant. It's going to scale better. It's going to work the way you expect it to, and it won't have all this overhead that you don't need. And so we're moving into that. So you should see that kind of from a marketing perspective. And we're picking on WooCommerce. They're like the biggest one of these, but it's the same thing for other solutions that you might be using along, in conjunction with or instead of PayMerchants Pro.
Kim, can you tell me what the WooCommerce alternative that you mentioned was again?
It's not a WooCommerce alternative. I mentioned an alternative to WooCommerce memberships, which is an extension available through the WooCommerce extension store. The new one is called Constellations, but it's also available through the WooCommerce extensions store. Not an alternative to using WooCommerce, an alternative to using Paid Memberships Pro. If you choose to use WooCommerce and need membership content restrictions, I think is kind of what their focus is on. You still would use WooCommerce subscriptions with that one. So,
all right, yeah. I'm sharing that link just because I was asked to share that link. But
I saw randomly on Instagram or like Reddit or something like a kestrel bird like doing something like badass, and I was like, it's like a cool bird, like they're really beautiful. I was like, I was like that branding. Before it was like, oh, that's interesting branding. And I was like, oh, that bird's cool. Like I don't know.
You're gonna see a lot more kestrel in your feed now because we talked about it on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
And also on the topic of WooCommerce, Brandon is wondering if there would be a PMPro add-on or integration for WP Job Manager plugin, because right now they're using WooCommerce on their site, but only because they need WPJM.
Yeah,
that sounds like a listings plugin, right?
I think it is.
Yeah. So
I guess tell us, and you can even put it here. What are you restricting? What are you selling? Like the ability to buy a pack of 5 listings. I'm not exactly sure what that would be, but if it was a membership level, it would be some kind of like allotment of listings is what I can imagine. Yeah. The privilege to post or the privilege to post X listings is kind of what I often hear.
It's probably a little ways away. I think it's a common component of a membership site. I have a bunch of people who are like-minded. A job board is like a interesting thing to present to them as a way to make money and give, like, it's a value add for your community. So in that sense, like, hey, it's something membership sites use, so it should be on our radar. Technically, like Kim said, it's a listing. You're charging for this other thing, and that's not what PayMerchants Pro has been doing. But you imagine like a year or two from now, we have that you can buy other things through our checkout. It might encourage WP Job Manager to have like a bridge, a PMPro integration as well as a WooCommerce integration kind of a thing. So I imagine like a couple years from now,
WP Job Managers here, we've been told our plugin is the easiest to integrate by lots of other developers. So they say like it was a breeze integrating with PayMerchants Pro. Your documentation and all your code was so great to read. So
sweet. Yeah.
Sam,
I encourage
pat
that.
on the back yourself. I can't pat you in Florida, but
so they might be able to integrate now, and definitely once we have that kind of like
monetization of posting job listings and recipes. Yeah. Oh, it goes both ways. So you can post a job or you can post like a looking for work. I like
that. Cool. What subjects come up? So we got a couple other things to chat about. WooCommerce subscriptions manages the subscription in WordPress, and it triggers payments. This is we're getting technical. Triggers payments in Stripe and your gateway. There's some pros and cons to this. I remember over 10 years ago when we first built PayMemberships Pro, and talking about the WooCommerce subscription people way back in the day, Jiggle Shop subscriptions, making that decision to manage the subscription in core or let the gateway manage the subscription. And there's been pros and cons for this. There's some other, I think SureCart has subscriptions, Lifter LMS manages subscriptions, kind of in WordPress. What's cool is WordPress then has control over these subscriptions. It knows exactly, some of the trial stuff is a little easier because it's like the subscription is managed in WordPress. You're never confused. Our big 3.0 update we chose the other option, like, hey, let the gateway figure out the subscription.
From V1, like from V1, forever.
Yeah. They're good at it. Yeah. If your website goes down, the subscription still charges. And then when it comes back up, it gets back in sync. And the downside is sometimes it will go out of sync for various reasons because we're dealing with, internet technology. PMPro 3.0 does a way better job of keeping things in sync. So that was important for us so that we can kind of function as if we manage the subscription. It's really in sync. I guess I'm rambling, but I suspect that going forward, because of the complexity of the online payment space, including like AI spam, you know, trying to hack things, cryptocurrency being so complicated. And we talked about all the legal ramifications of how you do payments, that it's possible Stripe and PayPal and a few other companies are the only people like allowed to charge your credit card in a recurring manner. And this is a big business. There's a bunch of sites that do trigger the subscription. So it's not like Stripe and PayPal turn off recurring. They would blow up a lot of businesses. But if I put my crystal ball and I say 3 years out, I think you're going to have a subscription managed by like an approved gateway like Stripe.
And it's all getting, you've heard words like PCI compliance and, GDPR and like, I know there's lots of strict rules in Italy about payments. Jason mentioned in India that recurring subscriptions really aren't allowed, that it has to be a customer consent for each charge to allow that payment to go through. So if we look at the global payment landscape, the idea that your little WordPress site on your $5 a month host is allowed to tell a card to be charged is kind of, I think that's going to go away. And I think for good reason, for protection of people, for fraud of all kinds. So letting the subscription managed at the gateway is kind of the standard that is in the future and will be the only allowed path that Visa, that MasterCard is going to accept.
And even in the interim, there's lots of good reasons to let a company like Stripe manage that, because they have relationships with the banks to, when someone updates their credit card, sometimes they automatically know your new credit card number, which has privacy ramifications, but they also automatically kind of figure out with the bank if the person wants the credit card to be used or not, or which subscriptions are more likely to be ones they want to keep running for subscriptions they want to forget when they issue a new card. So there's all this stuff kind of going on at the banks and at Stripe. Also, like their recovery of failed payments and stuff like that, they just do a better job. They do charge. So it's been noted, like it's a dirty little secret. If you let Stripe manage your subscription, they charge 0.5% fee on those payments. In reality, we see that you get more than 0.5% benefit. You should bake that cost in, and you're probably already making up for it because they do a better job managing the subscription than like your host that might go down for a blip and then break or something.
We just had someone in the community. My site went down.
Okay.
How do I, but my payments kept processing. I'm like, wow, beautiful,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like, what about my site went down and I missed 5 days of revenue because I couldn't get it fixed? I didn't know how to fix it. Or WooCommerce had a bug and it took 5 days to get it out. Like that sounds way worse to me than some missing orders in your site.
Yeah, I think
so I don't know.
Every time we deal with like
the
stuff went out of sync, which is a big deal, get it back in sync and figure it out. If we were managing the subscription software wise, that would be not out of sync. The subscriptions aren't firing, and then you got to figure out how to get the money back. Blah, blah. So that's like us seeing the crystal ball. Like PayMerchants Pro is already set up to like interact with the gateways in the way that we think is best to like keep your subscriptions functioning.
I don't.
But then speaking of Stripe, so Stripe is so good at managing subscriptions. Something that we see in the future is that Stripe is also a competitor in many ways. So when we build our first Stripe integration, it didn't send emails ever. It didn't have a way to manage your account. It didn't have products. It didn't have discount codes and coupons, or if it did, they weren't workable for subscriptions. It didn't have all this functionality, and they recently acquired like Lemon Squeezy, I think for merchant record reasons, like the part of their business that onboarded merchants in a certain way. Is what they might have been interested in, but they're actually running like a service that you can use to run a membership site through. And it's so I don't know, it's just like we were aware of that like Stripe and PayPal and these other big payment, like I honestly don't know why they're taking so long. They're giant companies that make more money. They natively make the money from our customers. Like it's weird that like we have this business, other people make more money than we do on the same customer. So, which is fine. It's like we agree, but then they could be incentivized to like kind of come into the WordPress space, to come into the hosting space. They would also upset a lot of their business relationships if they did that. But I don't know, it's something to like look out for. But it's something we're aware of. Like we struggle. Like someone said, like, oh, like the payment tables feature of Stripe is really cool. And they're like, why can't I just make a payment table in Stripe and then host it on my site? And we do this for some other tools. Like you now can like, we do, like we said, Stripe checkout is good. We like sending you Stripe for the payment. potentially sometimes send you to like the Stripe account customer management to do things. And we want to, we should be releasing some documentation really on how to use the Stripe tax service and let them do taxes and stuff. But it's possible. I don't know. We're just on the lookout. We're ready for Stripe to be like, oh, we're also, you can post content directly to your own website. You don't need, WordPress or something like that. So
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Wasn't too trashy.
I started getting called as I said that.
Oh.
No. Okay. They're calling me Jason.
Stripe's calling. No. We have a good future ahead. It's going to be an awesome year. It was fun to do this.
Yeah.
It would be fun to celebrate all the wins too, but I think I'm very forward looking. We're both pretty future looking.
We're like, all right, we did that. We launched it.
We're
Good.
like,
People are happy.
next?
What's
Yeah.
next?
In the Slack community, there's chatter that Gavin has said that I'm going to be creating an infographic on the here and now and coming soon after the vote.
Ooh, that's fun.
So I may have to like download the video to get the transcript to put it into ChatGPT and be like, here you go, make me an infographic.
Community only.
That would be interesting to have though. That way, when we do look back in 3 months, we could say like, this is what we talked about without having to rewatch this hour and like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
We'll just clip it up. We'll play that clip of us talking. We'll be like, we said that? No, no, we won't. I don't think so.
Nice.
I'll hold us to it.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for giving us the insight of what is to come for PMPro or potentially
trying to get the dog up.
Maggie, what are you doing, girl?
I'm gonna say hi.
We can never have an open office hours without a dog.
Maggie's on YouTube.
I will be back live Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern for membership manager topic.
So cool.
Nice.
I don't know if Maggie will be here. Bye.
All right, bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.